Hi everyone, and welcome back to Toylytics, where we take a look at the analytical side of toy collecting. In this video, we're going to cover the secondary market sales and prices for the Coliseum wave of Mythic Legions figures over the first quarter of 2024. So let's get into the wave itself. Here's a refresher in case you don't remember what was in this wave or when it was available. This wave has long been gone from retailers, and definitely one of the legendary waves for Mythic Legions as a line overall. Some major Grail figures here that many collectors would love to have in their collections. We'll see that with respect to the prices, but generally these haven't been available from retail since at least about 2019 or 2020 when they initially sold out. So let's go into the data itself, start taking a look. As you can see, not a whole lot of sales. So in general, the wave had 75 sales over the first quarter of 2024, which is right in the range of each quarter of 2023 that I have data for. In general, there's not a whole lot of difference in the number of units sold between each of the quarters in 2023 and 2024. The only big difference, I guess, would be Romulus, where he only sold 40 copies overall in the second half of 2023, and just in the first quarter of 2024 he sold 32. But other than that, we see pretty much some very low values here for a lot of figures, and then the other ones that had a little bit more sales are generally in line with where they were in previous quarters. Not a lot to see here month by month. In general, though, you can see that Romulus sells, at least recently, anywhere between about 8 and 12 units per month. Black Knight, also not surprisingly, one of the cheaper figures, not super cheap, but one of the cheaper figures, as we'll see, sells between about 6 and 9 per month, and everything else sells very little, very few sales of most of the rest of these. If we get 3 or 4 per month, that's a lot of some of these other figures. As far as prices are concerned, they reflect the Grail status of some of these figures, right? So Adamon's the price leader right now, average price $327. By the way, these are prices just for sales in 2024, so that we're looking at the most recent prices. Everything else was looking sort of over time. In this case, I'm just looking at the averages over quarter 1, 2024 to get the general sense of what it's been selling for most recently. Rhaegar is next, average price $295. Keltis, close behind, average price $283.6. Brontis, a little surprising that he's so high because there is a Brontis 2, which has a second head, and a lot of people would say that's probably a better figure, the Brontis 2, because you have more options and things like that. The head's more swappable and that sort of thing. We'll see why that's so high by looking at the individual sales next. Halmir Golden Tooth right behind 182, and then the ones that are more common, Coliseum, Orc, Black Knight, and then Romulus is super common because he was available in All-Stars 5+. And as you can see, he's still very much below even the retail price of $50. He's right around the Four Horsemen direct sales price. Looking at the individual sales, let's look figure by figure. So the first is Adamon. Generally, the price is about the same. Well, you could say it is coming down maybe a little bit over the first quarter of 2024 in comparison with 2023. Now you're looking at somewhere between about 300 to 360 for most of the sales here. We had a new one here go for a little bit over 400. We also had a repackaged one go at a pretty good price, all things being equal, for 235. I know that's a lot of money, but in general, when every other sale is above 300, 235 is a pretty good price. But overall, he's relatively stable. I guess maybe the price is coming down a little bit. We're not seeing as many of the high 300s, low 400s prices that we saw over the last half of 2023, but still definitely a very pricey figure if you want to try to grab him. Looking at the Black Knight, we can see again somewhat similar prices from 2023. The one thing I will note, and we noticed this on some of the Aether figures too, is that we're seeing a reduction in variability, right? So looking at 2023, we could see prices as low as 46 in this case, and prices as high as 95. The points in 2024 to the right of the curve here are much closer together. So yeah, we did have a few, sort of outliers, some loose figures here, but in general, everything was selling in between $60 and just over $80, right? So we're seeing a little bit of a tightening up of the prices, which I think is a good thing, because then prices are more predictable. We kind of know what the general going rate is. I mean, if you see a figure going for $55 versus $100, that's a wide gap, right? You really have to look at market timing in that case as far as when you want to buy the figure. But in this case, if we're seeing prices generally between 60 and 80, there's a lot less variability there, and you can get a general sense that, yeah, this is kind of the market consensus about what that price is. So something to look at moving forward. All it takes is a few people to overpay or get really good deals to, kind of increase that variability in the future. But it's something to take a look at as we move forward in time and collect more data. Looking at Brontis, not a lot of sales, but as you can see, this one right here, this 256, somebody really wanted that original figure. Everything else is selling for generally around what the All-Stars 2 version is selling, or All-Stars 4, whatever it was, version, All-Stars Troll version. The Brontis 2, right, figure is generally selling between about 130 and 150, and that's what these are selling for as well. So this really, when there's so few sales, one value like this really increases the average. The average was 192, and as you can see, there's only that one figure that was even close to being that high. Everything else is between about 130 and 150 as far as that original Brontis is concerned. In my opinion, I would just get the Brontis 2, the All-Stars version, but if you need the original, you can still probably get them for right around the same price. Looking at the Coliseum work, not a whole lot of sales here, only 3 sales overall, and they were in late March, and generally between about $70 and $100, so a little bit of a variation there, but in general, that's about where we saw in the past, although we did see some Coliseum works going a little bit cheaper in 2023, especially earlier in the second half of the year. So maybe that price is increasing a little bit, but just not a whole lot of figures for sale, or at least being purchased, to be able to get a good sense of what the prices really consensus turn out to be. And then Halmir Golden Tooth, just 2 sales in 2024. We have 196.50 and a repackaged one, really good price, again, relative to what he has been selling for in the past, of 167.60. So again, hard to say any sort of trend because there are so few on the market for Halmir. Looking at Keltis, though, a few more sales for Keltis. So we did have these 3 in early January go for loose figures right around 200 to 240 or so, or 230, I guess, is the highest. And then these figures here selling in late March, 340 plus, right? So a couple new ones as well as a repackaged one. So in general, we're seeing, used ones going for somewhere around low 200s. Which I think is a really good price. If again, for a Keltis, we're all under the impression that he's not going to be remade, so I can't really see his price decreasing too much below the low 200s. So if you see one for that price, I would probably try to snatch it up if I was in the market for one. And new ones, though, going for a significantly higher price in that mid 300 range. Romulus. Again, a lot of sales, as we discussed before, but a lot of sales right around that 20% off retail, that $40 price here, and here's the retail price of $50. So in general, you're seeing somewhere between about $34, $35 all the way up to some were going pretty high. I'm not sure why somebody's paying $60 or $57 for a Romulus here, when a lot of other units are for sale for in that $40 to $50 range. But it'll be interesting to see if this starts increasing. We've seen some of it increasing for the All-Stars 4 figures like Scaphoid, like Vetus. Some of those figures have been increasing in price lately as well, because they're becoming more scarce, of course. As Romulus becomes more scarce, it may be that his price starts to creep up again too. And then finally, Rhaegor. Everybody loves Rhaegor. Not a lot of sales, though, for Rhaegor because he's pretty rare. Here was a really good price on a loose one for $200, lowest price in the last 9 months. But then we also had some other ones sell for that $335 to $350 range. So again, it's one of those things where if you have a Rhaegor, you can almost name your price in a reasonable range, because there's not a lot available and thus not a lot of sales. So in general, if you see a good price for a Rhaegor, again, it's everybody's understanding, I think, that that's not going to be re-released. So probably a good idea to pick them up if you want one, because not probably going to get a better chance than a good price that you see now that you're comfortable with. That is it for the Coliseum wave. I think all of us would love to go back and be able to pre-order some of those at the Horseman prices. But anyway, a lot of good figures there. But again, if you are just new to the line and are interested in getting into Legions, these probably aren't the ones to necessarily go after because they are so expensive. We got some really great figures coming out now, and those, everybody has the opportunity to get those for much more reasonable prices. But it's nice to, or it's interesting to keep up on the prices and see sort of what's going on if you are in the market for one. Anyway, that is it for the Coliseum wave. Again, stay tuned. I'm going to cover more waves over the next couple weeks. I will also be covering Cosmic Legions waves as well as Figura Obscura, so stay tuned for those as well. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you again soon.